Okay, guys. All right, we are live. Let's get started, guys. We got 8:30. As you see, opening up here with the SPX chart. I'm just gonna cover some of the daily insight, guys, that we put out in the room for you. Um, you can see that I have quite a bit of arrows here. Yesterday, those of you guys trading in the room know things are just not lining up like they normally do, right? Which makes it a little more difficult depending where you're trading, right? Because a lot of times we like to verify, what the Dixie does impacts the market. What the market does impacts crypto, right? Well, now, yesterday was one of the first like weird days, right, where the Dixie continued to climb, which should push the market down, but it didn't. The market continued to explode, which should push crypto up, but it didn't, right? So it's stuff's not lining up. So let's take a look at SPX. Guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, whether you're bullish or not for the Fed meeting, I would just extremely caution you to taking any kind of calls today on options. Um, it's just I'm not saying not to. Heck, if it hits a certain level or the news, sounds bullish, I'll probably even take one. What I'm saying is, if you set a call, set a stop loss. Don't fight it. There's too much room to fall. It's not even funny. So I want to talk about the levels here. We're going to focus a little more heavy on the SPX. It does impact the same thing, as far as the SPY or whatever you're trading. But because this has the after hours, it's a little more clear, right? So I want to start with this arrow here, right? So you notice that we are starting to test the area that was once heavy support, right? This was a huge wick that found support. And then if you come along here, right, to this arrow, it was another area of resistance. It lost this right here. So even though it broke that area, notice how it retested it and then absolutely crashed, right? So this line is very significant, and we are literally like licking this line. I mean, if you zoom in, um, right? I mean, we're just like right there. So then I want to kind of pull out a little bit. So now we're on top of the horizontal line that we have here. If you take this peak to this peak, right? Now you have a two peak hit. That's why it's struggling so much. But if this was not a news day, I would tell you guys open like a 50 contract put, and you're gonna get rich by the next few days, or heck, even probably today. But news trumps all, guys. So be very careful, because this trend line, although you have one where it rejected hard, you have two where it rejected hard, and likely it's going to end up a 3 point rejection, pretty hard. If the news is bullish, if Powell starts talking today at 11 and he says we don't see any need for rate hikes all of a sudden or whatever, right? The market is so bullish right now, that anything even hinting towards easing back on those interest rate hikes is going to push it past this. A push past this is just going to explode. But so I drew a few patterns here just to kind of show you guys what I'm watching that'll make my decisions. So like you guys know, we always like to box it in. This is our low. This is our kind of high that I foresee before a big rejection. We are still following this white lines, which is basically a rising wedge. So for us to push even as high as 43.15 or so is not out of the question, right? Which would be like a 430 or so SPY. It would still be within this rising wedge. I don't think, being that we're in an overall bearish pattern, if we get up into this area, right, somewhere in this yellow line where we're retesting this type of support with this resistance, I just don't see it breaking that without some kind of like massive economic news, right? And although there's a lot of things going, well, like the tech stocks and all the earnings reports are showing up, I don't know that our economy is still quite there to push it. I mean, our economy was in a way better place when we were hitting these areas here, back here. So we'll see how that plays. Again, if you think about it, when stocks were up here, Bitcoin was sitting at 60,000, right? And so for us to climb back up to there, and Bitcoin only to be at 26 or maybe 30 by then, right? It just doesn't really line up unless we have just a ridiculous explosive candle. So um, we're just I'm still staying put, guys. Yesterday we took some puts, over the last couple days, and we've had some great scalp wins on the way up. It pumps up. We scalp it down. There was one trade that we got caught in on the early part of the pump. Yesterday, I had when we fell back, I moved my trailing stop up, and so I ended up stopping out of that one. So we took a loss on, or I took a loss on one of the puts, but the other ones that I took ended up keeping me net green, which is all that matters. So, and which is great because now again, I'm trading that gap, right? And you can see even in our gap fill on the 6 hour here, right? We're overly bearish. Now, keep in mind this is a gap fill indicator we've created. So when it says bearish, the movement, the trend is not bearish. We know that, right? The trend is actually bullish. It's calling. What this is saying is it's too bullish. It has not cooled down. This is saying, overall we need to have a bearish gap fill coming, right? And that's on the 6 hour, so that could take some time to play out. So you could go down to the 1 hour. We don't quite have the bearish call, but we're still overly bullish, right? On the 1 hour, so we can go down to the 15 minute, and you can see it's the same thing. We're a little overly bullish, not enough to make that call, but it's getting there. But if you go to like the 2 minute, see, we are overly bearish. So the 2 minute is calling for a potential gap fill coming, and it's pretty lopsided, right? Again, though, news, man, could just trump it all. So I would follow things like this SMA here, or this is the 200 EMA. Yeah, we're on the zone tracker, so 200 EMA. Here, you can see it's just continuing to find support throughout it, right? So once we flip this and it starts to curl, that'll give you a quick kind of indication that we're coming back down. But today's news, guys. So it's hard to say if we break this, create lower highs, lower lows. Like the normal fundamentals of trading to find that pattern or that trend kind of go out the window when the Feds start talking, because that's when you get those ridiculous moves. So you're going to likely see at some point today, depending on what they say, you're going to see like a swift move up, like a wick. That's going to wipe all the stop losses, right, for the people that are going short. And then you're going to see a swift wick down, and then you might see a recovery pump, and then after the move up and the move down, that's where the true trend will reveal itself. So if you're trading today and you're nervous on news, my suggestion typically for people is wait for the big move up, wait for the big move down, and then watch what it does. Watch and see when it slows down a little bit. Is it creating higher highs, higher lows? Is it creating lower highs, lower lows? Right? Then that will determine what direction you should be trading that. So it's a lot of time on the SPX. So I'm gonna move on. But that's kind of what I see. I'm not going to talk too much about the SPY because it's really going to be the same thing, guys. But you can see pre-markets up. I see the SPY potentially if the news comes out and they start talking and the market makers want to clear liquidity, they're going to push this wick up to like 422 area. This is a trend line that I have from, I think if you go, not the 1 hour. We got to go to like the daily, I think. So this is that trend line that we had talked about right here, right? And then this obviously still has that same rising wedge, which see right around 430 or so would be its bump. I don't see us passing this prior high 431. So again, if our potential high is 431 and our potential low is 382. Or let's say if you even pull this as your potential low, right? You come down to this area here, which would be about 400. I mean, our risk of fighting that fall is far greater. So, and keep in mind, as you get higher and higher, you just hit such ridiculous levels of resistance. So, so just keep an eye. guys. And if you're in the room trading, we'll talk more about that, all that. Let's go into the Dixie. So this is where stuff don't make sense. We called this rounded bottom perfect, right? Anticipating that move south. Um, Typically when you have this kind of explosive move, right, it's not usually followed up by this explosive move. The exact same thing, right? It's just, it doesn't usually line up like that. So we could have a situation where this creates like a cup and handle situation, right? So I would look for a possible pullback. Even if the Feds come out negative, it could come down and hit this area here, find some support, bounce, and then if that handle breaks, right, from here to here, if the handle breaks here, then that could explode it north really, really big. So let me delete some of these old lines here. So, but yeah, again, like I said, the dollar, I see it getting up to like 104.7 if the news is good. If it breaks this, guys, oh man, because it hasn't broke this trend line in some time. This is one of those longer ones too. So if it actually can crack this trend line and hold support, I mean, you're looking at like 107. I don't know that it's going to be that bullish for the Dixie, bearish for the market. But again, it depends on what the Feds say. So Powell's not been shy about saying he's getting to that 2% at any cost. So everybody, I think, is overly bullish on some stuff because they keep, just like the last time he spoke, they keep saying, well, he's going to ease it back, he's going to ease it back, he's going to ease it back, and he may. But each time he's came out, he says, we're on track to, not making any changes, right? So market could be pricing in something, could be a bull trap, right? Because the Dixie and the crypto markets doing what it normally should do, they could be trying to trap a ton of contracts, and then we just absolutely tank, on the stocks. So just keep a close eye on that. VIX is down below 16, which every time it's gotten down here, it's exploded north. So just I'd expect that kind of movement up there. The tech stocks, I'm not going to really do the TA on for the most part, but if you're following Apple, there's a pretty obvious trend line here, and there's a pretty obvious resistance here. So it's getting really close to even where the pre is, right? Where either it's going to bounce and hit that and take off, or it's going to reject. It is overly bearish on the 5-minute, so gap fill, so be careful. Got 2 of those on there. And then for Amazon, we're not quite as bearish, but we are getting, a retest of this high would not shock me, right, before it decides to pull back. If you're trading Google, I've just been following this wedge right here for like, I don't know, since Monday. So it's literally stayed in this wedge, and you can see the pre-market's way up, right, but it's bouncing off of this wedge. So that's kind of the channel I would follow. If you're doing Microsoft on the 2-minute, if you go to the Zone Trackers 200, you can see it's just literally been finding support on this 200 since all the way down there. So until you flip this 200, it's going to be difficult to fall. But the pre-market is down, and we do have a lot of bearish divergence kind of popping up here. So and we're just overbought. So a slight pullback would not shock me. So Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, I just kind of marked the upper and lower for Bitcoin. Our low, about 23, I still think is going to be a play, and then our high 29.4. So I want you to be very careful if you're trading crypto today. And I put this out in the Daily Insight. Crypto has not done what it's supposed to do with the Dixie and the stocks entirely, right? Meaning, although we did have this pullback, the Dixie pumped up a lot, and the crypto just kind of stayed around the same. The SPY pumped up like crazy, but the crypto didn't follow, right? So what that typically means is crypto is just behind the 8 ball on people in crypto, right? On having the faith to buy, but they're not really sure enough to sell, right? So it just kind of keeps that stain. So what typically leads up to is these big moves like this, or these big moves like this that are going to come, because what's going to happen is when they speak today, if it's extremely bad, the stocks are going to take an absolute beating. I promise you, when the SPY is sitting at 420, if it drops all the way to like 410 or 412 or something crazy, right? Crypto's gonna just take an absolute whooping. I mean, it's gonna go down to like 25 two at least, right? Probably just from that news cycle. Now, if the news comes out good and the SPY and these stocks are able to break those levels, what it's going to do is it's now crypto's going to say, oh, the news was good. Whoa, we're behind the eight ball. I'm sure that the market makers got plenty of short contracts in here for people believing it's going to keep going down, that they can just explode this. And we can literally see a move, all the way to 29.6, right? 29.4. So, I mean, you have that risk of a potential direct move of $3,000, and then the move down, because I still think we're going to hit a bounce here no matter what the news is. I mean, if the news is super, super bad, it'll explode all the way to the bottom, right? But I feel like crypto's not really following either. So and crypto loves to just do these kind of things, right? Super profitable if you're on the right direction, but the days like these, when things don't line up, that big move is coming, and that's typically where people get stuck. So I'm not saying don't trade it. I'm saying, um, I, it's funny because the easy answer is to say, well, set stop losses, for the news. The market makers and their bots, all the hedge funds and stuff, their job is to find your stop loss. Then they will probably hit it. That's where you get wicked out, and then it goes the way you thought, right? For me, I would suggest, if you're not comfortable, if you're that nervous, just don't trade it. Wait for the trend to reveal itself. If you have a larger account, or you can manage your volume on crypto, my suggestion is trade it. Right, don't throw that stop loss in there, but trade it at a volume that you can get out of it no matter where it goes. And if you guys are running our ATAs, you guys know how powerful that can be. So if I take a long here and it just tanks on me, I'm going to do like a 5 times DCA here, which is going to drop my entry to like here, and then I'm going to get out anyways. So I don't care where it goes, right? I mean, it's not like we're going to get news today and all of a sudden we're at 60K, right? That's not happening. I mean, it would be amazing, I guess, but for the crypto I hold, but not happening. So keep your margin low, or keep your plenty of margin, keep your volume low, keep your leverage, that you're pulling out low if you're trading today, so you can manage it no matter where it goes. Think about that. Everybody who's traded these events, you guys always end up telling me the same thing. Man, I had a trade and I set a stop loss. I even set it farther and it still wicked up, hit my stop loss, and then it tanked out. I made $600, and it's like, well, you got wrecked by the market makers. They did their job. ETH, I'm not going to touch too much on. ETH is just going to follow Bitcoin, guys. You all know. If you want to know where the range is, it hasn't changed from yesterday, because I only got about 12 minutes left. We got our ATAs. Let's talk about that. This is the automated trading portion. Y'all know that I have been scaling my ATAs back in preparation for the meeting. Not that I don't trust the ATA to do what it needs to do to get out of anything. Our default settings is 2 pairs both directions, right? Granted, 3 DCAs. So when I go up to 7 or 8 or 10, directions between the pairs, it's okay, because you can be very profitable, as you guys have seen who are following me, but it's also more risk. Higher, the more you run, the more risk you're taking, right? So you have to be really careful of that on news, because just like any trader, the AI in there is really smart, that it's gonna detect trend. It's gonna, I mean, it can read technical analysis even better than people, right? And some of you in the room know what I'm talking about, because heck, even myself, I'll be like, man, this thing threw this call, and I'm like, I don't know, and then it ends up playing out, and I'm like, dang, I guess I knew more than I did, right? This is why we use technology, and that happens, more times than not, right? Sometimes, and so, but with that, like I said, news and volume always trumps TA, and so if the code can read the TA, but it doesn't really read that news and volume, it has no way to know that we're about to explode, right? Beauty is we build it to be defensive, and we only do 1 DCA, so we can manage our way out of anything. But there's just not, although it could be very, very lucrative, right? It could be just very dangerous because if you're guessing the direction, because nobody really knows what the Fed's going to say today. Anybody that says they do, they're guessing, right? So let's talk about this. Those that are new to this is our automated trading portion, where I just manage my own accounts within here, and you guys can welcome to follow, or at least hopefully learn something as I do it. So we're pulling up ETH. All I did is go to my layout, hit load layout, and then pulled up my ETH. There it goes. You just go to load layout and then pull up your ETH. So looking at it quickly, it looks like our short is doing good. We're at 11 days, 128 bucks. We're still doing well. We're in a short now, with one DCA not hit, but really really close, right? So not worried about my shorts. Doing really well. If you don't have ETH up, I simply am running short ETH on BitGet, parabolic SARS. I leave this on touch. The take profits I leave default. I run one DCA because I will manage the other two on my own. If you have a large account, you got plenty of room to do a bazillion of them if you want. I'm not running a stop loss because I am running long and I'm running short. So I'm it's like working together as a hedge on itself, right? And this is roughly when I closed it out. So you don't have to copy the closeout. If you're starting it now, you'd want to close it out today. So but that's the settings that I'm running. I'm not going to worry about the shorts here. So the long we already know. I mean, we're still in that long, right? The long is 1859. Either the news is going to be great today, we're going to pump up, and I'm going to get out of that sucker, or the news is going to be bad today and it's going to fall, and I will manage that DCA accordingly. But I don't usually stress about ETH because ETH is such a good project that it always rebounds. But I'm going to be very selective on, very patient on where I put that third DCA. So, but we're still earning on the short, so that works, right? And this is why the power of BitGet is you can trade long and short. So even though you're stuck in a long, many of you that trade, in the past, we would get stuck in these longs or stuck in these shorts, and you just wake up every day at the mercy of the market, hoping you get out, but you're earning nothing. At the end of the day, you may take a stop loss, right? Or you stop out, or you just close the trade, right? But with this one, you can actually earn, right, while you're stuck, so it works. So we'll go ahead and leave that. The long, I'm running the same settings as the short if you wanted to follow, if you don't have it up. So next we have LTC. Let's see. I think LTC stuck the other way, stuck in a short, which is cool because we're stuck in a long on ETH, but we're stuck in a short in LTC, so we kind of have that balance, right? So we are still stuck in this short in LTC. We did apply a second DCA right here manually. So far, it wasn't really the peak, but it wouldn't have mattered. It's not a bad DCA, right? You can see it's still just kind of ranging, right? So again, depending on the news, this thing could pump all the way to 102. This would be my area of interest for a DCA 3, or we could tank back down to this red line, and then I don't care. So I'm only 2 DCAs in. This was the settings I've been running. Haven't touched it. I don't even really look at these most of the time until these meetings. So this is a lot of times new to me. So let's look at the long. So it looks like the long's doing pretty well, $112 in 4 days, which is amazing. But it did take a long. It did do its DCA 1, and it has not gotten out. So this is the beauty of the ATA, guys, is if you unlock the short and the long, it's a win-win. If we go up, I win. If we go down, I win, right? I'd prefer it to go down because then I can do the second DCA down here, and then that would squeeze me out of both of them. As far as the LTC, I'm not making any adjustments. Those that are following, just long LTC, BitGet, parabolic SARS. I have the TPs doing one DCA, and that's it. And I'm not doing stop loss because I'm hedging it, so it's constantly trading against itself. So, which is the power, because the markets typically do this. Even when they go parabolic, they always come back down. So the markets are always going to go up and down and up and down, even in the bull market. If you look back through, there's always that gap fill. So I'm not touching that. Let's take a look at Sol and see, did Sol get out? What was that? Sol long? Might not have got out. Let's see. No, it doesn't look like it because it's still ranging. Yeah, we didn't get out. So let's take a look at what we got. So Sol did not hit its its DCA. I believe we added this yesterday. Yeah. So we did have a second DCA we added. This is an existing trade, so if it does happen to get out, it will not take any more. And so you can see yesterday, this is where we added that. We've only DCA'd one, so it's not like we're super deep. If a DCA is here and gets a nice bounce, this DCA here should bring our entry somewhere around this level here. So if we come down here and then we get a nice little bounce, right, it's just going to get itself out. So this one's existing, so I don't have to touch it. You can see here I have it labeled as ATA Gambit Sol Long Existing. These are the settings I did for my existing. If you missed yesterday's long Sol, big get, parabolic SARS, touch. I got the TP here. DCA 1, DCA 2 was set at this percentage, and then we just modified the date to where our trade entry was actually 1 minute before, and then changed this to enable existing trade. That's all I did. So, and then just create your alert again, and you're set. So if you're following along with Saul, I'm not going to add anything obviously right now. So I'll tell you what, guys, if you're on the TikTok or you're watching this on YouTube or in the community, I'm gonna do, when I get off of here, I'm gonna create another huddle, which I don't always do this, but I'm gonna do it around I'm trying to think. Let's say for like 5 p.m. Eastern, because that'll give me time to get my daughter from school and do what I got to do to assess things. So around 5 p.m. Eastern, I'll do a second huddle today, because depending how the news is, depending where we settle, I may be okay. Because I love to run, 8 or 9 directions through the weekend because it captures this, right? It captures that movement. So just kind of look for that. If you're on TikTok, you want to join, you guys can. If you're in the community, I'll create an event after this, and then we'll just say about 5 p.m. EST. We'll not only do another market review. I'll do a whole nother huddle, right? We'll schedule for 30 minutes. We'll do a 15-minute market review, 15-minute of ATA review. So if you guys want to follow along, you guys can do that. If you're in the community, it's gonna be recorded. If you can't make that time, it's okay. So guys in the community, I appreciate it, you joining, and I'll see you in the room. So I'll send out the trading floor information here soon. If you're on TikTok watching, stand by and I'll look and see what kind of questions you guys had.